Today we're going to talk about trends in multifamily with Adam Perry. He's the Senior Vice President for Development and Construction Management at Cityview. Cityview is a huge developer, primarily in the western United States, heavily into LA and California. More than 5,000 units under management, 2.5 billion in assets under management. What, your 20th year as a company, Adam? Right. Doing what? Market rate, workforce, and something you call attainable. What's attainable?
Attainable is a mix of workforce and market rate, kind of between. Okay. Every jurisdiction has their own qualifications on what workforce is. Yeah,
10% to 25% or whatever. Okay, good.
Sometimes so you 200% in Northern California.
Yeah. So what do you let's tell our audience what you at Cityview, speaking for the company in a way, what are you seeing? I mean, if you're not doing cold storage or building warehouses for Amazon, get into multifamily because it looks like a terrific market. What are you hearing, Adam?
Well, it's kind of funny that you talk about cold storage and warehouses because we have been in business. We're coming up on our 20th anniversary, and multifamily is really our bread and butter. We've never been so busy in the 20-year history of Cityview. We have approximately 2,200 units right now that are either in entitlements, pre-construction, or construction, which represents about 1.5 billion in kind of total capitalization across all those projects. And those projects are located in Colorado, Arizona, California, and Oregon. So we're primarily West Coast, and that's where we develop all of our assets. And if we have our way this year, we'll also be in Washington as well.
Washington State.
Yeah. And really specifically the Seattle market. And we are incredibly busy. We've raised more money than we've ever raised, even in the start of this quarter, than in any previous quarters in Cityview's history. We're seeing rents, bounce back like we've never seen before in all the markets that we're in. And because of such high demand and high growth of the warehouse and cold storage space, we've actually started now developing industrial. So we've got about 2.5 million square feet of industrial in Colorado and Arizona in either diligence, entitlement, or design.
Wow,
so
fantastic.
It's another product type that we love.
Yeah,
we love
wow.
The risk profile.
Sounds like you're going after the biggies. That's good. Speaking of biggies, what are some of the things that you're hearing from your tenants and prospective tenants about what's the difference? What do they want? What are they telling you? If you don't have, well, here's my great example. If you don't have a pickleball court, we ain't going there. But what are you hearing, Adam, as to what their big needs and interests are?
That's right. And it's funny you say pickleball because on a project that we're in design on right now, we have a basketball court, and we're trying to figure out how to stripe the court to incorporate a pickleball court as well.
Easy to do.
So really what we're seeing is connectivity. Before the pandemic, Wi-Fi was nice to have, but it wasn't a must. But residents today, they want to be connected all the time. You want to be able to work in your unit and have full connectivity. You want to be able to walk down the hall and either have connectivity on your phone, your watch, or your laptop. You want to be able to touch down in a club room, in a CV works, in a pool courtyard, on a roof deck, and not lose connectivity to the internet. So we're spending a lot of money and a lot of time making sure that our buildings have managed Wi-Fi and that there are no spots or what we could call like a dead spot for connecting. So you mentioned basically be in our elevators.
Yeah.
Still have.
Yeah. You mentioned CV Works. What is that, and how's it working?
So it's a spin and a more successful spin on the WeWork concept. which is
Let's
City
hope
Works
it's more successful.
Well, it is. Trust me, it is, and we see that in our resident surveys, and we see it in the use of the actual space, because that's really the major litmus test is, are your residents using those spaces? And
Right.
CV Works it's a co-working lab, and really what we've done now is we've designed multiple personal office spaces within our buildings with tons of natural light, lots of glazing in the offices, and fully wired personal offices. So you can expect a large monitor or sometimes multiple screens, connectivity to be able to wirelessly connect your laptop to the screen, writing surfaces. You can literally work in your unit if you want, or in a CV workspace, and it feels like you're in the office. We have
Wow.
cameras in each one of those personal office spaces, and it's really it's an extension of your workplace that you probably remember or used pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And
do tenants sign up for 2 hours or something like that? I had something like that.
That's a great question. So we do have an online portal through our Cityview app that allows the residents to go in there and block out a certain amount of time.
Right.
And it's been pretty incredible. We've had so much demand from it that we've now taken some of the offices and turned them into larger conference spaces, because even though a lot of people are working from home, they're still getting together and they're still collaborating together, just not necessarily on the 50th floor of their office building in San Francisco or in New York or parts of Los Angeles.
How much square footage are you devoting to this kind of space?
That's a great question. It's usually a couple thousand square feet.
Couple of
So
thousand.
we're not looking at a storage space that's 200 square feet and trying to slam an office or two in there. We're really being thoughtful and intentional and even strategic on where we place this amenity for our residents.
Where do you place it, if you can?
Yeah, it's great. So we like to place them in areas where you're going to get a lot of what we call, kind of collisions, where residents can kind of commingle in the same location. So we like to put them off of club rooms if possible. We like to put them off of leasing areas, off of the ground floor where you have a lot of resident interaction, where residents are going down and getting their packages, getting their mail, maybe going to the fitness center on the ground floor, and then also checking in on the CV Works. Because ultimately you don't want an isolated amenity. You want the residents to be able to freely interact with each other. And you also want the staff that we have, the incredible staff that we have. We're a vertically integrated company. The only in-house service we don't offer is construction right now, but we have a phenomenal property management company, and they love our residents and they love interacting with our residents.
Right.
So it's great
your
to have that.
Your next project, Adam, is to put one of those in my house here. Okay.
Absolutely. I'll send you the plans for free.
Okay. Let's talk about other amenity. Obviously, the work working within the building is very exciting. Very impressed with what you're doing there. Any other big amenity demands that you're seeing among your tenants, or anything that's kind of new?
Yes, absolutely. I think you hear a lot about, smart home technology,
right?
And maybe you have an Alexa or a Nest. And really what we've done is we brought a company in and we partnered with a company called Latch. It's a public company, phenomenal company, technology company.
Sure.
And what they've allowed us to do is focus on access control. So throughout our buildings, there are no keys and there are no key cards. Everything is run with a phone or a smartwatch. So you can get into your unit using your phone. You can turn your air conditioning on or off, or your heat on or off remotely from anywhere in the world, as long as you're connected. You can allow a delivery service such as Uber Eats or Lyft or DoorDash to enter the building by giving them a code from your phone, and they can then go into either a package room or into one of our other amenity areas and actually drop your food off in a refrigerator or a cooler type box that allows the food to stay warm.
Right.
So really what we've done is we've given residents kind of complete control on their phone. Or on their watch.
And that's the big demand. That's the big demand these days. Yeah. Great. What are you having trouble with in terms of getting your projects done as a result of Gee, let's see. We've only had a pandemic, and now we've got a war going on. That's messing up supplies. What's the big bottleneck for Cityview projects, if any? I hope there are none, but
That's
are you
right.
experiencing anything as construction management director? What are you hearing from your people in that aspect, please?
No, it's a great question. So obviously there are still disruptions locally with the supply chain and also overseas, and that will work itself out at some point. I don't think it'll be anytime soon, but we hope within the next 12 to 24 months that a lot of these supply chain and logistic issues kind of rebalance themselves out. The most kind of immediate disruption that we're seeing right now is really on the concrete side. There's a lot of admixtures that come from Eastern Europe, such as Ukraine and or Turkey, that have been difficult for a lot of the batch and mix plants to source. So if you have a big concrete pour, it can be very, very difficult to secure a place in line if you need 40, 50, 60, 70 concrete trucks on one day for one pour. So we have had to push out a topping off for one of our projects about 2 weeks to 3 weeks because the subcontractor has just had a difficulty trying to source that amount of supply kind of from one plant.
So it's the admixture piece of the
admixture.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
That's right.
But you're dealing with it. You're dealing with it, and it's getting done.
Yeah, we're dealing with it. It's getting done. The great thing is that we try to buy out as much material and equipment as possible, even before we sign a guaranteed maximum price agreement. So we're buying rebar before we sign a construction agreement. We're buying waterproofing material, roofing material, appliances, you name it. We're in the market to buy, and we're in the market to buy in bulk, which is again similar to kind of a production housing model of procurement and bulk buy and standardization. And that's really what we're learning through the pandemic is you've got to settle on your plans now and your design now, not make any changes, and procure immediately.
Yeah. Well, since you're the developer, you could make that decision and live with it. Yeah.
That's right.
It's tough. Yeah. Another construction related issue is we've done some writing in our magazine, Multifamily, Design and Construction, and we covered, of course, we've been covering it for 30 years. The whole modular prefab question. Are you doing any modular prefab, whole or in part, on your projects?
Absolutely. So we developed really a phenomenal project. I mean, if you were to look at this property, you would have no idea that it's modular, but the project's called Union Flats. It's in Union City, California. It's right adjacent to a BART line, which kind of take you all over Northern California, into the Bay, into the East Bay, into the peninsula. So the location's great. And that project was a modular project. It's actually a LEED Platinum modular project, and approximately 243 units. And we learned a lot from it. We haven't done one since. We haven't looked at one since, but we learned a lot from that experience and that build.
Can you tell us one thing you learned?
Whether it's your design consultants, your engineers, your contractor, your subcontractor, they really need to have deep experience in the modular market. Mm-hmm. Actually, I would say don't work with anyone that doesn't have a lengthy resume on modular construction. Excellent
advice. And we've heard it from others who have embraced that field as well. So there must be something to it. Green stuff, green building, sustainability, carbon, all those key words. What's Cityview doing in that arena?
That's great. Well, look, sustainability is really in Cityview's DNA, and it's something that our residents absolutely appreciate and pay up for.
Do they really ask you about that in the leasing office? I mean, I know it's California, so
Well, whether it's California, Colorado, Oregon, even in Arizona, they don't have to ask much because we put it so front and center. From the first time a resident has an impression on one of our websites, they see a lot of the green features that we're already implementing in our building. So the second they walk through the door with our advertising and our marketing materials to make sure that the resident understands that the property is LEED Silver minimum, sometimes lead gold if we can get there, just depending on the location of the project. So the residents are already very aware of what we're doing. And I think there's a lot of buy-in. Originally on a lot of our projects, we would probably spec 5% of the parking stalls as easy EV charging parking. We're now doing 20% of the parking stalls with EV charging. And we've even embraced it so much that we partnered with Tesla on one of our projects. And I believe we have the only mixed-use building probably in the country. It's a phenomenal project in Culver City in Los Angeles called Haven. And we actually have a Tesla supercharging site. So there are 8 to 10 dedicated stalls that can be accessed 24 hours a day, 365 days a year within our property to go charge your car within 15 minutes. And demand for that has been unbelievable. I mean, there's literally a line down the parking structure for cars coming and going, trying to fill up.
Wow.
So it's something that we've really embraced. We've always been embracing projects that are located in close proximity to transit, whether it's rail or bike. All of our projects are off a bus line, a major bus line, a major bus route. Bicycle.
What about renewables and what are you doing toward any kind of, I don't want to say passive house, but heavy duty insulation, building core and so forth to reduce your energy use right from the start?
Right, exactly. And you're so correct, because so much of reducing that carbon footprint is on the efficiency, on the building envelope. So what we do is all of our buildings, our spec is a minimum of 1-inch rigid insulation on the roof with a TPO white roof, so it's highly reflective. We're looking at actually expanding from 1-inch now even to 2-inch on the roof, just to get added efficiency with our units. All of our units at a minimum have R30 insulation, R19, R11. So we really try to make them as tight as possible. Super low E glass on all of our windows. We're pretty much using one window spec at this point that gives us a super high STC, super efficient low E glazing, and then also on our mechanical systems, which is what you have to look at as well. So a lot of our mechanical systems for HVAC are super, super efficient on all of our projects. And we continue to push that kind of envelope, if you will, every few years on a project, with just making sure that the SEER efficiency is getting higher and higher and higher.
Well, California and other jurisdictions are moving toward this, getting rid of natural gas, restricting it, going to electrification. What are you seeing in that area, Adam?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I mean, we drive down any of the streets in any of the major cities and markets that we're in. There's a Tesla or a Mustang or some sort of electric vehicle. So the public is really starting to get behind this sustainable movement, especially on the electrical vehicle side. So we've really embraced that. We're even at the point where we're even considering just having free charging stations and giving it to the residents.
What about electrification within the unit? My induction stoves and so forth. Where are you on that?
Right, we're doing a lot of research and we're testing some of that on some of what we would call our value add properties, where they don't necessarily have gas. And we're looking at the new types of induction ranges and the technology that comes with that and how efficient they are, and kind of playing around with the different appliances and manufacturers. Our next step and our next process for really greening our buildings is moving to solar PV and solar storage, and looking at how to electrify not only the ranges, but also our dryers. All of our buildings and all of our residents, they have stacked washer and dryers in all their units, and depending on how big the laundry room is, sometimes it's side by side. But we're looking at bringing all that from a gas appliance to an electric appliance. And I think it's going to be embraced, and it's going to have to be embraced, and eventually the code's going to get there. So the quickly you can start understanding the technology and the use and adopting it, the better you'll be for when the code eventually gets there in the next 5
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. All right. Well, let's wrap it up with the dreaded Rob Cassidy question. Adam, you've already given some advice to our audience about modular. You said make sure you're dealing with people who know how to have done modular and know how to do it. what other bit of advice would you have for AEC firms, other developers out there, property owners in the multifamily sector?
Right. I think really it's a standard of integrity. I'd say there's a lot of ways to cut costs and the value engineer and to cut corners in this business. And I'd say ultimately there's such a housing shortage because of affordability, obviously. And for a lot of these residents, they're going to live in one of our buildings for a very long time, which we hope. They may not be able to live in a single family home. And really, you've got to have a lot of integrity in your structure, in your finishes, in your buildings, even if it's going to cost you more, because it's very personal for a resident. It's their home. It's the place that they go home to, that they sleep in, they may eventually raise a family in. And we don't sacrifice on quality. We don't sacrifice the integrity of the product that we put out in the market, which is really a resort style living product that's very similar to the hospitality industry. So as long as we continue to keep that standard across all of our projects, I believe we're going to continue to see those results, based on kind of the results our peer group sees. So.
Great. Okay, that's great. Great advice. Well, I want to thank you. Our guest today has been Adam Perry. He's the Senior Vice President of Development and Construction Management at Cityview, a major developer and owner in California, but spreading out throughout the West. Watch out, everybody. Here comes Cityview. Thanks a lot, Adam.
Thank you so much.